Hello, Tech Pros, episode 116.
Welcome to the podcast where I chat with professionals who are getting the job done using technology 7 days a week. Each week, we start with Motivation Monday. Tuesday is about productivity, Wednesday, leadership, Thursday, technology, Friday, people and communication, Saturday, entrepreneurship, and Sunday, being unplugged. All right, let's get started.
Hello, Tech Pros. This is Chad Bostick, and I'm excited to be joining you today in a very unique environment that I've never recorded before, and it's outside on my back porch. And I'm doing this because I thought it would be cool. It'd be fun. It's something different. You know, I'm always talking about being unplugged on Sunday. Sometimes I just need to take my laptop, literally unplug it from the wall, come outside, and enjoy the beautiful Florida air and sun and butterflies and the trash trucks that are picking up all the garbage today, this Technology Thursday. And so I thought I would let you join me outside. If you hear a little noises, maybe the air conditioning running or the horns honking on the street in the back of the neighborhood, it's all part of the experience. All something new. So today, I don't have a featured guest. I'm going to be talking to you directly about the technology that I use to record this podcast. I have gotten lots of questions over the last few months, especially within the last month and a half or so, of, Chad, what do you use to record a podcast? My goodness, you've done over 100 podcast episodes now. How do you do it? Like, what do you do? I've thought about getting into it. And what equipment do I need to buy? What software do I need to have? So I thought I would break this episode down into the hardware, software, tools, platforms that I use to run this podcast, to run the website, to do everything that I'm doing. Now, I don't think I'm going to have enough time to cover all the information of every single little website that I use, every single free utility that I use, but I am going to hit the big ones, the major, the must-haves, the things that I use daily, day to day, every day while I'm recording this podcast. So the first question that people always ask is, what do I need? And when they say that, they specifically mean most of the time, what hardware do I need? Well, there's a lot of different options. There's tons of different options. And I don't have the bandwidth and capacity to research them all and do all the work and test them all out. I'm just trying to run this one show. And to be honest, running a daily show 7 days a week takes all the time that I have in order to produce this show. So to be honest with you, once I figure something out and get a system working that works for me and works consistently, then I use that over and over every day until it breaks or until I just magically discover something else. And so some of the items I'm going to give you today, I love. Some of the items I'm going to tell you about today, I don't really like, but they work for now. And when a better option comes along, I will use it. So let's dive into the hardware. First of all, I have two computers that I use kind of interchangeably, a desktop and a laptop. Now, I am a Mac guy. I've been a Mac guy since about 1988, 87, 88. And I stopped using Macs for a period of about 6 or 7 years to switch over to PC, maybe 8 or 9 or 10 years, switch over to PC when I was doing .NET programming exclusively. And I was like, okay, the corporations are now paying me to use these PCs. I have to get really, really good at them. Plus, there were some games coming out like Star Wars Galaxies back in the day that I wanted to play. They were on PC. Okay, I made the switch over. Now that I have the choice, I prefer to go back to Mac, especially after Mac OS X came out. So I am not really a Mac fanatic. This is what I use, and this is what I like. And there are other tools, there are other software, there's other hardware that's going to work better if you're a PC user. And I'm sorry, but I can't give you any advice. So you probably look to Cliff Ravencraft, the podcast Answer Man, or the Audacity to podcast. Those are some truck going by. Zoom. They have some really, really great tutorials and equipment lists for if you're a PC user. So I'm using a Mac. I have two Macs. I have a MacBook Pro, which is about 3 years old, and that's the computer that I'm actually using to record this particular episode outside on my back porch. It's actually really, really noisy. I don't know if it's picking up all the noise on this microphone. I'll tell you about the microphone in just a minute. But I'm thinking, my gosh, I'm going to have to listen to this and make sure it's quality enough, because I didn't realize how noisy it is on a Thursday morning at about 9 o'clock in the morning. There's a ton of traffic going on right behind my neighborhood. Oh, you know what? There's a little school, there's a little daycare center. So there's probably a lot of people dropping off their kids. Anyway, so I've got the MacBook Pro, which is about 3 years old. Now, I paid about $2,500, $3,000, whatever it was. Too much money. You know, Apple charges way too much money for their products, but we buy them anyway, so there it is. I paid a lot of money for this MacBook Pro, and it's about 3 years old. It's still a great computer. Since I'm not actively doing software development, I'm not actively, I don't play a bunch of video games on it. It is perfectly capable of doing all the podcasting stuff that I want or need to do. So that's why I think I made a mistake. I'm pretty sure I definitely have buyer's regret, buyer's remorse for getting my iMac 5K Retina about a year ago. Because I don't know. I saw it. I saw the videos of it. I saw the pictures of it, and just fell in love with the marketing message, to be honest. And they sold me a product that I didn't really need. I'm sorry. I'm ashamed. But I bought something that I didn't really need. I just thought was cool. What I should have done with that, gosh, I don't know what I paid for it. Another $3,000 that I probably paid for that iMac Retina. What I should have done was gone out and buy dual 27-inch high-definition monitors and plug them both into my MacBook Pro. So the reason why I got the iMac Retina was because I was tired of using the little laptop screen, and I've got a 19-inch external monitor that I plug into it, and I wanted something bigger, and I thought, wow, that Retina screen just looks amazing. It's so beautiful. It's so colorful. It's so amazing. And I didn't think through everything that was going to happen. So I overpaid for an additional computer that I didn't need. I had to transfer over all the data. So now I've got data in two places on two different computers, right? I've got files over there and I've got files over here. If I don't sync those files to the cloud, then I'm having to constantly, okay, where was that spreadsheet? Oh crap, I forgot to save it to iCloud. It's on where's it at? It's on my laptop. I got to move it over to my desktop. So there's all this pain of hassle of moving back and forth. Plus, I wasted that money. I should have just gotten two, 27, 28, 32, whatever, monitors and plug them in. You know, I could have spent even $1,000 on monitors, and it still would have saved me about $1,500 to $2,000 instead of having two separate computers, my laptop and my desktop. But that's what I have. And so that's what I'm going to use. I'm not going to buy any more computers for a long, long time because I've got plenty to use. The specs on these computers, I don't know. They've got i7 processors in both of them. The hard drives are good enough to do these recordings. I've got an external 6 terabyte drive, which I can plug into either one. And so I've got enough data to last me for audio recordings. I could talk till time runs out and still have plenty of tape for that. So I'm good on the hardware side. So that's what I'm using. I'm a Mac guy. I've got a MacBook Pro, and I've got an iMac 5K Retina, which I shouldn't have bought. Now, the question that you're probably asking is, when you ask about podcasting hardware, the most times people want to know microphone. Like, what's the spec on the microphone? What's the good microphone? I only did a little bit of research. I didn't do very much research, and I didn't shop around and spend a lot of time. My budget for getting a microphone was under $100. And I tested out, first thing that I did was test out just my earbuds for my phone earbuds. It's got a little microphone in it. I tested those out. I did a test recording and thought, wow, this sounds like crap. It sounds like a telephone call and it's very tinny and whiny, and I don't like it, and so I need to buy something. The next thing I did was I actually used I've got a USB headset that I have on my PS4. So my nephew got me this headset last year for Christmas so that we could play some game. I forgot what game we were going to play, but we're going to play a game on PS4, and so we played that, and so it's got a little, flip down microphone in the headset or on the headphones. And so I used that to test record a couple of more episodes, and just wasn't really happy with the quality of that either. There was just a lot of popping noise. Anytime I moved my head left or right, it would pick up a lot of static as not really static, but scratching sounds as the microphone would either, rub against my chin, or I would bump it against, the side of my chair or something. And there was a lot of additional noise that didn't sound very good. And so I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to have to buy a dedicated microphone for podcasting. And so the microphone that I got is the ATR 2100, extremely popular microphone. If you look at a lot of the other podcasters, many others are using this. I like the process that I use. So I like the fact that I tried the things that I had first, and I would highly suggest to you that you try the things that you have first. Don't go out and waste a bunch of money on stuff you don't need, like I did when I got the iMac 5K Retina. That was $2,500, $3,000 completely wasted. So I learned my lesson from that when I went out to get additional hardware for the podcast, and I didn't waste a bunch of money on super high-end pro gear that I didn't need. And I got something that was capable. So this microphone, it's the one that I'm talking into now. It's the one that I usually have plugged in my office. Actually, this is my backup. This is my travel mic. So I have two mics. I bought the first one. They're $60 a piece. So I bought the first one several months ago. I plugged it in on my desk, and now it's there. It's permanent. It's part of my desk structure, the infrastructure there. And I don't move it. And once I started thinking about, okay, you know what? I'm going to these conferences. I'm going to Podcast Movement. I'm going back to Oklahoma to visit family and friends, and I'm going to need a microphone there to do recordings on the road. I don't want to unplug my mic that I have. And so I ordered a second microphone from Amazon, like 2-day delivery. It showed up free delivery with Amazon Prime. It's about $60. Give or take, and it's wonderful. I love it. I have a cheap little pop filter, which costs about $4, that hooks into the front of the microphone. I'm actually not using that for my travel mic. I use I don't know what you call these. Looks like what singers use, the filter that goes on top of a microphone that actually mounts on it, I don't know what these things are called. But anyway, it's like $2. It breaks up some of the wind, some of the background noise, some of the popping. So I use the big round disc-shaped pop filter for my desk mic, and I use this little slip-on cover filter thing, whatever it's called, for my travel around mic that I just keep in my backpack. And that way, if I ever need to pull it out, I've got my mic, I've got my USB cable, I've got my laptop, even a little plastic kind of rubber mic stand to put on the desk. I have all of that gear in my backpack ready to go so I can record an episode anywhere and everywhere I am. So that's the ATR 2100. By the way, I'm going to have all of this linked up both in the show notes page. This is episode 116. So I'll have this at hellotechpros.com/116 with some of the more specific details on how to hook this stuff up. But then I will have an evergreen page at hellotechpros.com/resources, my resources page. I was going to call it tools, but it's more than just tools. It's tools and software as a service and all the resources that I use. So hellotechpros.com/resources will have all the latest and greatest gear and tools and software and things that I use to run my business and run my podcast. So follow along with me at home. Okay, so I've got my Mac. I've got my ATR 2100 microphone. Another big thing, a big investment that I made after recording probably about 50 or 60 episodes was I upgraded my mic stand. That doesn't sound like a big deal, but first of all, the mic stand that came with the ATR 2100, it's a little tripod mic stand. It's about 8 to 10 inches tall. You just, set your mic on it. But the problem is I have to stoop over on my desk. My desk is kind of low sitting, and so I'd have to lean over the keyboard, lean over the desk, lean over the microphone, and it just puts me in a bad posture position, and I don't like doing that. It's okay for on the road or travel or actually I have it right here with me when I'm outside, but I'm not using it because I just picked up the mic and found that it was easier just to hold the mic closer to my face than it is to use this little mic stand. But when I'm doing a guest interview, I love having the mic in my face at the right level to my face, ergonomically correct, but with my hands still available to do some typing. So what I did is I got a swing arm mic stand, and I couldn't tell you what brand I got, but I got whatever Amazon suggested whenever I bought the ATR 2100. And it said, many people also buy this mic stand. And it had a swing arm, and it mounted to your desk, and it was only like $12. And I was like, heck yeah, I'm getting that thing. That's going to be awesome. Well, it was not really awesome for me. So the C-clamp that's on the back end of that mic stand where you mount it to your desk, it was just slightly too narrow, maybe a centimeter too narrow, and it won't actually clamp onto the desktop, onto my actual physical desk. So I had to clamp it onto the leg of the desk, which means it was at a sideways position when it was mounted, and so it kept drooping. It kept drooping down, and the microphone would get lower and lower throughout the day as I'm trying to record episodes. And also the worst thing about it was the articulated arm on this mic stand. It had springs on the outside of it. And so I wish I had it out here. I would show you what it sounded like. But every time I bumped into that stand, my Apple Watch tends to get hung up on stuff. So it would constantly make this ringing sound. Bring, bring. And it sounded like a telephone ringing every time I bumped the mic stand because the springs that were, that articulated the arm on the mic stand were constantly ringing as I would bump into it. And it was so annoying. So after, it was 40, 50, 60 episodes. I don't know how many episodes I recorded with that thing. I upgraded to a stand that actually cost twice as much as my microphone, but I'm extremely happy with it. So I got the Heil PL2T microphone stand, and this one is again a C-clamp. It's articulated, but the C-clamp is nice and wide. It spreads out really, really nice, and so it fits to the back of my desk, and I mounted it directly to the back of the desk instead of on the side of the leg. And then it just swings out right there next to my iMac. I've got my big, 27-inch iMac. It swings out just to the side, so I can push it to the left out of my face whenever I'm just typing or reading or working on the computer. And then right when I'm about to record an episode, I just swivel it directly in front of my face. Just one finger swivel it over in front, and it's always in the right position. It never droops. It doesn't have springs on the inside. It's got, I don't know what it's got. It's got magic on the inside of the joints. So a little bit of Harry Potter magic going on there. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what it is. I've never torn one apart to look inside of it, but it's amazing. It's extremely quiet. It's extremely durable, and I love it. It cost me about $120. Which again is about twice as much as the microphone itself. But after recording 50 or 60 episodes with the old springy, noisy, droopy, sad little mic stand that I had before, I'm so happy that I upgraded to the Heil PL2T. So again, if you want the links to these, I'll link them up directly to Amazon. You can find it at hellotechpros.com/resources. Okay, in just a moment, I'm going to talk about the software that I use to record all of my episodes and the particular configuration that I have to use and the crazy, I don't know, it feels like crazy integrations that I have to do between the software to make everything work. But I'll cover that in just a second. But first, we're going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors. This episode of Hello Tech Pros is sponsored by Minio Cloud Storage. Minio is a cloud object storage server for developers and DevOps written in Go. The Go programming language is the emerging language of choice for modern cloud infrastructure projects, and it allows Minio to be highly concurrent and lightweight. Minio is Amazon S3 compatible, built with microstorage architecture in mind, but at its heart, Minio is simple, scalable, and supported by a passionate developer and user community. In episode 89 of Hello Tech Pros, I talked with A.B. Periasamy, one of the founders of Minio, about the importance of community support and recruiting software developers who are as passionate about their product's code as artists are of their art. Check out that episode at hellotechpros.com/89 and check out Minio Cloud Storage at minio.io. That's minio.io. Okay, we're back, and I just covered the hardware that I use in my podcast recordings, both on my Macs, my iMac 5K Retina, as well as my MacBook Pro, and then the microphone of choice. I have two of them, one for my backpack and one for my desk. The ATR 2100 microphone. It's awesome. It sounds incredibly amazing, but it's only $60, and I know a lot of people who spent $400 or $500 on microphone. And I don't know, maybe I have poor ears, maybe I have poor hearing, I'm not sure, but I can't really tell the difference between theirs and mine. I can tell the difference between like speech patterns and rooms that you're in. Like, I'm sure you can tell a big difference between the way this episode sounds because I'm recording outside on my back porch, listening to all the traffic drive by and the airplanes fly overhead, than you can from my studio, my exclusive Hello Tech Pro studio, which is my home office / guest room. Actually, the reason why I'm outside is because I got kicked out of the guest room because we have guests this week. And because I'm a nice guy, I'm allowing them to sleep in because they come from a different time zone, and so they're not used to getting up early. So anyway, we're going to jump into the software. So I've got the iMac, the MacBook Pro, the ATR 2100, and the Heil PL2T. That's the hardware that I use. All together, that cost me, it cost me about $200 if you don't include the computers, because I already had those. I didn't buy those specifically for the podcast. So I spent about $200 on hardware for the podcast. Now the software is a different story. The software is where it kind of nickel and dimes me every single month because of all these monthly charges that I have for the software. The app that I use to record every single episode is Adobe Audition. Now, with the Mac, there's GarageBand. There's a lot of other software that's out there for free or software that's cheap. But I already had a license to Adobe's Creative Cloud for Lightroom. I use it for Lightroom, and I also was thinking about getting it anyway for Photoshop. Not that I'm not a graphic designer, but every now and then I need to tweak some images. I hacked my very, very ugly logo together myself with Photoshop, and so Adobe Creative Cloud has the $50 a month package, which has Photoshop and Lightroom, which I use Lightroom all the time for my amateur photography stuff, but then Adobe Audition, as well as some other software. And so I use Adobe Audition as my software of choice for doing recording. There's a lot of other options out there. There's Audacity. There's, what did I say before? GarageBand. GarageBand and Audacity are great go-to software that's cheap or free. So I haven't used those. I can't recommend them, but lots and lots of podcasters use them. So go that route if that's the way you want to go. That's totally cool. I use Adobe Audition, and so the other software that I have kind of helped me tie everything together to Audition. So the next piece of software that I use, next two pieces of software that I use are Line-In and Soundflower. Now, these are both by Rogue Amoeba Software. Line-In is a tool that's free, and it allows you to map an external microphone, like my ATR 2100, to an output channel on the computer. So, you can map it to headphones or internal speakers or AirPlay, or specifically a software-based multi-channel mixer such as Soundflower. So these two pieces of software are critical to use together for me, in my case, the way that I have things hooked up. Soundflower is a free open source kernel extension for Mac OS X, and it's a 64-channel virtual input-output device. And what that means is, you can get a hardware mixer so that you can plug in all your microphones and all of your speakers and everything like that into a mixer, and have like a mixing board studio setup where you can, change the gain and the tuning and all that kind of stuff. I don't have that. Maybe someday I'll get that, but for now I use this free open source kernel. It's unsupported via the Rogue Amoeba. I guess they got the license for it, but they're not actively supporting it. But it is available via GitHub. So if you just search for Soundflower, or if you go to here on hellotechpros.com/116, episode 116 on the show notes page, I'll have the link for it so you can get that. And so what we do is we hook these two things up, or all three of these things up. We're going to hook up Line-In and Soundflower and Adobe Audition, and the next piece of software, Skype. We're going to hook all of these up in a way that allows me to record my podcasts with my guest on one channel and me on another channel. So again, I use Skype. That's what I use to do all of my guest episodes. I'm not using Skype for this episode because it's just me talking to myself, talking to you, the audience, and I don't need Skype. But for every episode that I have a guest on the show, which is over 100 episodes now, I use Skype. And I have a love-hate relationship with Skype, except there's no love. There's only hate. I hate Skype. I wish I had something else to use. There are some other tools, but the problem is some of my users only want to use the telephone, and I have to call them. And so I use Skype to call them on their phone. Skype is free to call cell phones and land phones. Since I'm in the U.S. and most of the time I'm just calling U.S. residents, it's free to call cell phones and landlines, and also call other Skype users. Now, the benefit to using Skype is if the person on the other end has Skype and they have any kind of microphone, anything at all, it's going to sound 1,000 times better than if I'm calling someone on their desk phone or on their cell phone. It just does. It's that voice over IP technology is just a lot better than the regular telephone circuits and the cell phone circuits. Those things are minimum bandwidth. It's just crappy compression. Everything sounds like a telephone call, as opposed to if I call somebody on Skype and they have some even desktop computers or external mics that come with what am I trying to say? Webcams, right? Webcam microphones. Some of those are decent, but anybody that's got a headset or just a $15, $20 microphone that they can plug into the computer just sounds 1,000 times better than anybody that I've dialed up that's over their cell phone or even over the landline. So if you're talking to a guest, if you're trying to do an interview with a guest or another co-host, I recommend don't doing it over the telephone. Do something else, and I use Skype. So it's a real pain in the butt, but I have to integrate all four of these pieces of software together in order to have. My goal is to have me on one channel and my guest on another channel when I'm doing the recording. And that way, if I need to edit anything, if I need to make my voice a little more hot or my guest voice a little more bassy or whatever, then there are separate channels and there are separate tracks, and they're actually recorded as separate WAV files. And then we can edit each track individually if we need to, or if it sounds great, we just run it. So this is how I do it. Okay, I'm going to run through the preferences and settings that I use. This is going to be difficult to follow along. it's probably going to be a lot easier if I re-record this as a video and walk through step by step. So if there's demand, if you like what I'm saying and if you want to find out more, but you can't exactly follow along, let me know. And if enough people ask, even if just one person asks, I'll go ahead and record this like step by step and do a tutorial video and put it up on YouTube. But for now, I'll just give you a quick overview of what we're going to do. So again, the goal is in Adobe Audition, we're going to have me on one track, the guest on the other track, or the host on one track, the guest on the other track, and to be able to record them separately. So you're going to install Skype. You're going to install Line In from Rogue Amoeba software. You're going to install Soundflower, that open source kernel extension for Mac OS X, and you're going to also have Adobe Audition CC installed. So I'm going to go through the preferences for each one of these individually. So on Skype, the first thing you do is go to Skype, Preferences, Audio, Video, and then you've got two settings that we're going to make sure that we set. On my microphone I set to ATR USB microphone. Obviously, that's the microphone that I'm speaking into that I want recorded, but I also want my guest to hear the same microphone. So what's really important about this is what I said before. We want me to record both tracks, but we also have to have me to be able to hear my guest and my guest to have to be able to hear me. So it's important that all these settings are kind of in sync. So again, Skype, Preferences, Audio, Video, Microphone, ATR USB microphone, and then speakers. We're going to set the speakers to Soundflower 64 channel. Okay, and we're specifically doing that because the default is like your default output, which is like your speakers on your Mac or your headphones that you've got plugged in. I don't want that to happen. What I want is Skype to route it into Soundflower 64 channel. And what that's going to do is later we're going to hook up Adobe Audition to the input to be Soundflower 64 channel, and we're going to basically route that Skype my guest's voice from Skype into Adobe Audition on through a Soundflower, one of those 64 channels. Okay, so Skype, Preferences, Audio, Video, Microphone, ATR USB microphone, and speakers, Soundflower 64. The next thing we're going to do is go to Line In. It's got a very, very simple user interface. You're going to click Input from ATR USB microphone and output to Soundflower 64 channel. It's going to be the exact same setup that we did in Skype, only on Line In, you're going to set those, they're titled differently. Instead of microphone and speakers, it's input from and output to. And then on Line In, there's a button that says play through. And so once you click that button, then it wires everything up. And now your input from your ATR 2100 USB microphone is actually outputting to Soundflower 64 channel, which we're going to use in Audition next. So the next thing we do, I lost my notes. The next thing we're going to do is go to Adobe Audition and click on Preferences and then Audio Hardware. And we're going to set the default input to Soundflower 64 channel. Okay, so that's what has happened now. Once we have set that, is we have Soundflower 64 channel has 64 channels available for audio, and Skype just used up channel 1 and 2 because it's stereo. It's a stereo signal. So Skype used Soundflower's channels 1 and 2 and the Line In to record my voice directly from the ATR 2100 microphone is coming from Soundflower channels 3 and 4. So when we go to Audition, Preferences, Audio Hardware, default input, Soundflower 64 channel, that's going to pull in all of those 4 channels from Skype and from Line In. Now, my default output, I want to leave as the default, which is my built-in output. And for that, what I do is just plug in my headphones directly to my Mac. And, I guess we should have talked about this on the hardware, but the headphones that I use are just my regular earbuds. They're my regular Apple earbuds that I use for listening to music on my phone or taking telephone calls on my phone. I tried using over-the-ear, and other people have different results. So I tried over-the-ear headphones, and I had some audio leakage. That sounds nasty. I had audio leakage from my headphones, and they were being picked up by the microphone, and so there was a lot of feedback. And I remember there was one particular episode with Lauren Rutledge, and I don't know, I could just hear her voice coming over my headphones that was actually going back into the microphone and causing a lot of feedback. And it took the editor folks that I use, it took them quite a while to figure out how to get rid of that feedback. And so I switched it up and just started using my normal earbuds, and it works great. And I haven't had any of those feedback problems since. And I can hear my guests, and everything sounds wonderful. Other people have had the opposite result. They use their earbuds, and they have that feedback coming in because the microphone is picking up from their earbuds, and so they've had to go on to over-the-ear headphones. So I suggest trying whatever you have before you upgrade and buy something else. So try just the headphones that you have, try the microphone that you have, and when you need to, then upgrade to something else. Okay, so again, we were in Adobe Audition, Preferences, Audio Hardware. The default input was that Soundflower 64 channel. The default output was the built-in output, which is my earbuds that I've got plugged in. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is on Adobe Audition, I'm going to set up a new file. I'm going to say File, New Multi-Track Session. Okay, and what that does is it comes in with like 6 or 8 different tracks by default. I don't need all of them, so you can delete them or you can leave them alone. But I'm only going to edit the first 2 tracks. Now, track number 1, we're going to name it Guest. So you can change the title of it. Change the title of it to Guest, or to Bob, or Susan, or whoever the guest is that you're interviewing, or the other person if you're doing a two-host podcast. Just name it Other Person. Okay, then the input you want to set to Soundflower 64 in 1. Again, the input is Soundflower 64 in 1. So that's going to select channel 1. It's actually going to select channel 1 and channel 2 because they're tied together. Channel 1 is coming again from Skype, and that's by default routed in through Soundflower because of the way we hooked it up. The input, the Skype input is coming, the Skype output is going to Soundflower, and the Audition input is pulling from Soundflower 1. So basically, Skype's output is now Adobe Audition's input, both on Soundflower channel 1. And then, okay, once we've got the input selected, you're going to click the little red button, the little button that has an R on it. You're going to click that until it's red, and that's the prime for record, or get ready to record. So when I hit the record button, it's actually going to use this track and record all the input that's coming from that onto there. And then I'm going to select the I for monitor input, and what that's going to do is route the input to my monitor, to my headphones. Okay, so what happens is when I go to Skype and I set these preferences up to the output is going to Soundflower 64, what will happen is if you don't go into Audition at this point and click the monitor input button on this channel, you will hear nothing from your guest. You will hear nothing, no noise, no background, no guest speaking, nothing, because Soundflower has captured the input. Soundflower has captured the voice coming from your guest, and it is holding on to it. And so now you need Audition, which is recording it, but it's not allowing you to hear it. So you need to click that monitor input button, which allows it to pass through into your speakers or pass through into your earbuds or your headphones. So that way you can hear your guest, and your guest is being recorded on that track 1, that guest track. Cool. So now on track 2, you're going to name it Host. This is you. This is yourself. And it's very similar to track 1. So we're going to name it Host. We're going to go to Input, Soundflower 64, but we're going to select N3. So similar to what we were doing with Skype, this is actually coming from the output from Line-In, that other piece of software that we're using called Line-In. It's going to take the input from your ATR 2100. It's going to output it to Soundflower 64, and it's going to go on channels 3 and 4. And on Audition, we're going to do the input Soundflower 64 in 3. And then we're going to hit R for record on this second channel or the second track. And then what I do is I click the I button to monitor input just at the very beginning, just to make sure that I've wired everything up together so that I can hear myself just briefly. I don't like hearing myself throughout the entire episode. I haven't got used to that yet. Maybe I should practice, so in case someday I'm like live on stage and you've got that feedback, hello, tech, pro, right? I can get used to that. But for right now, it throws me off, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to listen to myself while I'm recording. So what I do is I do like a mic check. I'll hit that I for monitor input. I want to test my levels, make sure that I sound good, make sure that there's no static, and make sure that it's actually recording what's coming from my ATR 2100 and not something that's coming from like my earbuds or my built-in mic or something like that. And so I'll talk a little away from the microphone like this, and then I'll talk right up to the microphone like this, and come up with a great distance that sounds pretty good, and then I'll speak from here. That way, once I do monitor input on the guest track and monitor input on my track, I can hear what's going on. I can test things. Actually, I'll do a test call with Skype. There's a Skype test call service, and a lot of times I'll call that service first, make sure that that service can hear my voice coming from my microphone, and make sure that I can record or hear both of the channels, both my microphone as well as the audio that's coming in from that Skype test service. I'll do that first before I'll do a live recording with my guest. Once I have all that set up, then I'm good to go. Then I call my guest using Skype, check the audio, make sure that I can hear my guest, make sure my guest can hear me. I'll look at the equalizer graph and make sure that we're in the green, maybe we're in the yellow. If we hit the red, is that bad? Is that good? I don't know. I'll kind of test it and see if everything sounds good. If everything sounds good or at least decent, then I'm ready to go, and then I hit record. And the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the timeline is marching forward. I've actually thought I've hit record on one episode. Oh, this is horrible. I thought I hit record, and I didn't, and we got about 8 or 10 minutes into the conversation, and I looked down, and the little clock ticker was not ticking up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Mr. Guest. I completely blew it. Like, we're going to have to go back and record the entire thing over again, which was not a big deal. The guest was extremely gracious about it, but it did throw us off. It kind of broke up our rhythm, and we lost a lot of that. So don't do that. Hit record. Wait a couple of seconds, wait 2 or 3 seconds, watch that little ticker at the bottom left of the screen. Make sure the time is progressing, and then start talking. And then when you're talking, you'll see that the timeline is progressing and the little waveforms are getting recorded on the screen. You can see that that's going on, and then have your guest say something pretty quickly into it so that you can get their message and make sure that their waveforms are recorded on the screen. And then once that's happening, once you see that yes, it is actually recording and it can hear my voice, it can hear the guest's voice, then you're done. You're good. What I do is literally turn away from that screen. I have that on my secondary monitor over to the side, and I don't look at that for the rest of the episode. And I just focus on my guest's voice, and I focus on the content. I focus on the conversation, and we just have a good time. So that is all of the hardware, the software, and the tricks that I use to record every single episode. This is now episode 116 of Hello Tech Pros. So I've only recorded about 5 or 6 episodes by myself, these kind of monologue episodes where I'm talking just directly to you. And all the other probably about 110 episodes that I've recorded have been set up using this exact same setup with the ATR 2100 plugged in using Line-In and Soundflower and Adobe Audition. And it works for me. Someday I would like for things to be a lot better. If I have to move to another computer, like when I was using my desktop and I decided I wanted to do a few recordings from my laptop, I had to reset up everything on my laptop, but it was much, much easier the second time around. The first time I set all this up, it took I don't know, hours. It seemed like an entire day to get everything working. Because I was using the wrong channels, because I didn't have the input, like the monitor input selected. Just all these things took me hours and hours. So hopefully this works for you. If you would like to see it, you're going to have to ask me directly. Like, Chad, I don't understand. I need a visual. Can you please record a video? And then if enough people ask me that, then I will record a video and put it up on YouTube. And you can ask me either by going to hellotechpros.com/116, going to the show notes and ask me there. Or you can ask me via Twitter. You can go to @HelloTechPros and ask me on Twitter. Or better yet, you can join the conversation that we have on my Slack channel. So I've just launched a Slack channel. If you're not used to Slack, it's another tool that I'll go ahead and give a shout out. It's another piece of software that I use daily to have conversations with my guests and with my audience and with other tech pros in other industries. I'm on. I am a contributor or a participant in other people's Slack channels, and I decided, you know what, this is an awesome tool. I'm going to open up my own Hello Tech Pros Slack channel. So go to hellotechpros.com/Slack, SLACK. And you can get access to that. It's completely free, and it's just a chat window, right? And my audience, my guests are dropping things in there and having conversations throughout the day. I'm dropping bits of nuggets of links to things that I'm using. I'm answering questions and asking audience members questions. It's a great way to get in touch in real time, just at any point in time, but without all of the public information that's on Twitter, right? Sometimes you want to ask people things that you don't want out there on the Twitterverse. My Slack channel is very, very small. There's just a few dozen people, a couple dozen people. So it's very intimate, and so you can get directly information from me or from some of my other guests. It's awesome. I love it. So come check it out. hellotechpros.com/Slack. Okay, thank you so much. It's been awesome to give you this information. Hopefully it's been helpful to you. Again, if you're a PC user, no worries. There's a lot of information out there. Try the podcast Answer Man, Cliff Ravencraft, or try, the Audacity to Podcast. Both of those resources are awesome if you're PC users and you want to hook up your podcasting studio and you want to know what equipment to buy or what software to use. Those are great resources that I definitely recommend if either if you're a Mac user that does not want to use Audition, that maybe you want to use Audacity, or maybe you want to use GarageBand, right? Those are two great resources, Podcast Answer Man or Audacity to Podcast, or if you're a PC user, either one. If you don't want to use my setup, I can't really help you. I don't want to do the research and figure it all out because it just took me too long. And I want to record. I don't want to research and try every single configuration. That's not what I want to do here. I want to get what works and I want to use it. All right. You've been listening to Chad Bostick, and I've got all of the tools evergreen. I will keep this page evergreen from now on at hellotechpros.com/resources. Thanks so much and take care. The show notes page for this episode can be found at hellotechpros.com/116. Do you use Slack for team communication? Join the Hello Tech Pros Slack channel at hellotechpros.com/Slack. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, subscribe to this channel, and check back tomorrow. This has been Technology Thursday, but tomorrow my featured guest and I discuss people and communication. On Saturday, we talk entrepreneurship. Sunday, being unplugged. Monday, motivation. Tuesday, productivity. Wednesday, leadership. And back again on Thursday to discuss technology once again. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.